want to be connected with us, go to Rainier Avenue Radio World, to the website, Facebook, Instagram, and God is, and that God is got a website. We need your help, community. So come on out and get your free food each and every Saturday it is. And so we asking for donation, whatever you feel to give from your heart to the mind. And as we doing it right here for you, go to our website and touch love and give back. And so come on by 810 23rd Avenue, Rainier Avenue Radio World, your community radio station and inspiration of all the things we do in your community.
What's on your heart? Are you exhausted at the lack of progress for people of color in business, politics, and life? This is Cindy Bright, the host of Heartbeat Radio. Each week, we explore this heart condition in the country that is affecting you and me. We have real conversations about what's necessary for change. It's time to change this dialogue. Will you join this Heartbeat weekly, Wednesdays at 7 p.m. on Rainier Avenue Radio?
Rainier Avenue Radio, your community radio station will provide you with more information. Rainier Avenue Radio.
Good evening. Welcome to, yes, one more time, another edition. This is Monday Night Sports. I'm Duke, your host. And we're going to talk NBA hoops, but also we're going to talk a little bit about the NIL. And if you don't know what that is, and mainly affecting college football and basketball, but name, image, likeness. We're going to talk a little bit about that because this feud, I don't know if you've been following it, but a feud going on in the media between Nick Saban and Jimbo Fisher. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And certainly I have some thoughts about that. But first, we want to turn our attention to the NBA. And I would love to give you my take on it, but why not bring in an expert that can really tell us a little bit about that? And that expert would be Hall of Fame writer, award-winning journalist from Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, and most recently, before he retired, with the USA Today, and that is David DuPree. So we're going to welcome him in and talk a little bit about these two series. You got Game 4 going on right now between the Heat and the Celtics. But man, what a Game 4 we had yesterday between the Warriors and the Mavs, and Warriors up 3-0. Do we have Dave? Is he here yet?
Of course I'm here.
He is here. Well, I guess they had to bring you. What's up, big dog? How you doing?
Yeah, I'm hanging in there.
All right. Man, before we get into the Heat and Celtics, Celtics a little bit beat up, but I tell you what, I was looking at the score and they're up 50-23 with the second quarter winding down. So it doesn't matter that they got a few guys that are nursing some injuries, man. Celtics say, hey, we ain't going down 3-1. I guess that's at least what they're saying. But man, the Warriors, come on, good grief. I'm going to say one thing, and I want to get your take on it. Andrew Wiggins, a guy who now, former number one pick and really playing like it now. And I wonder, Dave, I would love to get your opinion. Is it now he's in a obviously a much better situation than he's ever been in, but where he's not the guy and he can just play? And man, we're seeing how good he is. He dunk aside, just his defense and everything else. He is a great third option, fourth option, however you want to look at it for the Warriors.
Not everybody can be the star of a team.
Yeah.
And when you have as much talent as he has, and now you're like you said, you're the third, fourth option. But the way the Warriors play, we know who number one is, okay? But after that, you're moving without the ball. You're doing what you're supposed to do. And if you're the one that's open, you're going to get the ball. So yeah, he can make it. One thing I like about Andrew Wiggins, two things. He has always been a good defender. And even as recently as last season, he had no three-point shot. He could not shoot a three-point shot. Now, I'm not saying he would shoot a bad position. He just wouldn't take them. But he worked at it and worked at it and worked at it. And now he's a decent three-point shooter. So you have to respect it, because that just opened up everything else for him.
Yeah. And not to mention, he's a legit 6'7". He's a big guy, can handle the ball. And you made a good point, David. The Warriors offense, I mean, it's constant movement, and whether it's the back door or whatever, I mean, he's getting a lot of easy buckets cutting to the basket, and whether it's Steph hitting them or Draymond or whomever, I mean, all those guys are just sharing the basketball. I mean, I think the other guy that no rocket science here, who has stepped up and has really helped them in this run is Kavanaugh Looney. You got a big guy there that is just, I mean, he's owning the board, especially on the offensive side. I mean, just, he's killing them on the glass and, giving them that presence in the middle that they need.
He knows how to play. He knows what he can do. And the Warriors know what he can do, and they don't ask him to do anything else, and he does it. I mean, like one of your favorite players, one of my favorite players, Moses Malone, was great at only two things, scoring and rebounding. Well, if that's your job, to score and rebound, then I guess it's only two. Why not be those two?
Right.
I mean, I'm not comparing Looney to Moses Malone, but it's the same mentality. I got a job to do, and this is what my job is. I'm going to stay around the basket. When you need me, I'm here. And if you miss, I'm going to get the ball.
Yeah. So Warriors a game away. And David, I mean, it's interesting because you watch them, and regardless of, they're if they're not hitting their threes, again, like you said, they're moving, guys are cutting to the basket, they're getting baskets, and eventually they're going to heat up. Number one. And number two, even if they're cold, they're hitting some buckets at key times. I mean, that's just the makeup of this team. And these guys have been there. Oh, and there's the Wiggins dunk. And I couldn't believe they called offensive foul first. And of course they had to. Yeah. But everybody's like, oh, I mean, that was
Did you hear Luka talking about it?
Yeah. What he said? Yeah, I want them bunnies, huh?
Yes, man.
Yeah. And speaking of Luka, I mean, obviously only 23 and a lot of growing to do, but man, the kid can put the ball in the basket. I mean, his range is. I mean, I don't want to compare anybody to Steph Curry, but Luka's range. I mean, he's 3-4 feet back behind the 3-point line. I mean, you can't, especially at the top. On the top of the circle, you can't leave him open there, man. You just can't.
The way they play and the team they have, he reminds me so much of LeBron, and they remind me of Cleveland because they have no players. They got Brunson, who does what he's supposed to do. Finney Smith, one day he'll be hot, the next day, where is he? And you got Conehead Bullock, I like the way he plays, but you can't go 0 for 10.
Right, yeah.
I mean, I know Reggie Miller and everybody else is saying you got to keep shooting. No, you don't have to keep shooting. 0 for 7, 0 for 8. Now it's time to say, wait a minute, maybe this ain't my day. Maybe I should.
Well, and again, if you're Reggie Miller now, you're gonna keep shooting, okay? Yeah. But he ain't Reggie Miller, so.
But Dallas has. I hate to say anything is over and over, but they have no chance because they do not have the players. Yeah. Luka is out there by himself much of the time. And Brunson, I love him to death, but he's your size. And this is the NBA. You know what I mean? Come on.
He's tough. He's tough.
He is tough.
Yeah. And his dad, for some real hardcore Sonics fans, they'll remember his dad, Rick Brunson, was here for one, maybe 2 seasons. I can't remember, but I was working with the Sonics at the time, and I remember Jalen was a little kid running around and what have you. So yeah, he could be to them what Kyle Lowry is now to Miami, but he don't have Bam Adebayo. He don't have Tyler Hero. He doesn't have it. He's got to score. He has to do things that he really isn't that comfortable doing. Yeah. And that makes it tough to do the things that you are comfortable doing. Yeah. They've got to get that supporting cast around them so he can do what he does well. Yeah. And Luka, man, but yeah, I just I like his game. But I love the fact, you saw Luka got hit a shot, went down, and Draymond helped him up, and then Luka after the game, talking about Wiggins dunk, and that's cool. The guys. I mean, you see, they're out there, they're fighting, they're competing, but at the end of the day, respect one another and what they can do on the court. So, obviously, like you said, there's never in the history of the NBA anyone that's come back from a 3-0 deficit. So with that said, all signs pointing to Golden State, out in the West. Tell me, from your perspective, how does Golden State match up against Miami, who's up 2-1 now, and then against Boston, who obviously not going to count the Celtics out. But how do they match up against either of those teams? And if you're Steve Kerr, who are you hoping that you face?
See, the trouble that Golden State's going to have with both Miami or Boston, if that's not assuming everybody's healthy, is now you're playing against teams that know how to play defense. You're not. This is not that we're going to outscore. We're going to stop you, and they switch every screen. They pound the boards. They don't make mistakes. Well, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are making mistakes up the kazoo lately, throwing the ball away. But I don't think Golden State has not seen defenses like these two teams play.
Right.
Dallas wants to try to show they are physical. Well, Boston and Miami are physical. They don't have to try to show anybody anything. They're going to knock their head off. They're not going to be intimidated. They have players who can guard Steph and guard Klay Thompson, But again, if those guys are on, you got no hope. But if they're not on, then it's a different ballgame altogether. I mean, if Curry starts making those 40-footers and Klay make those standalone threes and all that kind of stuff, well, come on. But in a normal game, it's going to be tough. Golden State is not going to walk over either of those two teams. And I really think if they play Boston, you're going to see a series that's pretty darn special. Yeah,
it'd be interesting to see if they go into a zone at all against Boston in particular. But I mean, both Boston. Miami's got some 3-point shooters, but not to the level of Boston. But it would be interesting to see.
Boston would take 53 points in a game and won't even flinch. Because I mean, look, they got 5 when they play a Horford at center.
Yeah,
Marcus Smart, who is just a center in a shorter body playing point guard. I mean, they got guys who can guard anybody. And just Rick, the NBA game is moving without the ball or running a pick and roll. That's it.
Yeah.
And pick and rolls do not work that well against Boston because, again, you get a switch, so you're no better off than you were before.
Right. Because everyone can defend. Yeah. That is David DuPree. He is an award-winning journalist, retired from USA Today. I'm Dupe, your host here on Monday Night Sports, and kind of sizing up the NBA playoffs, and we'll continue to do that as in the coming weeks as we get into the finals. But I want to shift gears. And well, actually, before we shift gears, Dave, I'm curious. Right now, Miami up 2-1. If everything goes, I mean, you're only half into the game. I mean, it's not looking at about a minute and a half left, and looks like Boston's up 55-33. So they're up 22 at this point. Let's say Boston goes and wins. Now you're tied at 2. Who do you like, regardless? But with that backdrop, who do you like in that series?
It goes back to what I said when we talked the first time. I'm a believer that the team with the best player has the best chance to win the game, period. And I think Jason Tatum is the best player on either team. Therefore, I think Boston's going to win. It's just that. This ain't rocket science to me.
Yeah. If it goes, and my take is if it goes 7 games, I mean, I love Jimmy Butler, and I mean, he just brings it. He is a tough dude. And you go to game 7, you never know. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. With that said, now I want to shift gears, talking about name, image, likeness, and David, I'll throw out my take, and then I want to hear your take, and we can talk more about it. But I mean, I've always felt, you and I have had this conversation for years. The NC2A is broken, and it just it is what it is. But I like the fact that there is this attempt to say, okay, you know what, these players should be able to make something, because for all the people that make the argument, well, they get a free education. It's like, okay, come on. So yeah, they get a free education, so to speak. Okay. While these coaches in particular and the universities are making millions and billions off of these kids. And so I love the fact that they, can earn something off of their name, their image, their likeness, which doesn't have anything to do with the university. Now, with that said, if I'm understanding, how it is set up, and what's happening now is that you have boosters at these schools, and the Texas schools in particular have a ton of money, probably more than any other schools around the nation. And you got these boosters setting these funds up or whatever they're doing, and I mean, it's legit, because what they're saying is that, okay, kid comes in, signs autographs, we're going to pay him. but they have the money. I mean, it's just another way to circumvent the system. Back in the day, it was, and I remember when I played for the Huskies, a player that will remain unnamed, but we went down to Sanford and lost to a guy. He wore number 7 at quarterback. He was pretty special. Guy by the name of John Elway. And national TV, we the Huskies were ranked number 1. I think we're 5-0 or something like that. And got our butts kicked. Vincent White was the running back. Anyway, I remember getting on the bus to head to the airport, and one of our star players, shook hands with one of the boosters, and had a wad of money. So this is just a different way of getting money to these kids. But the feud going on between Alabama and Texas A&M, between Saban and Fisher, Saban, is upset because Texas A&M, quote unquote, had a better recruiting class. He got beat in the recruiting, didn't get guys that he wanted to go, and then he goes on to say, well, they're paying everybody. And my take on this, David, and I want to hear your take, is that for these guys to sit there, they're making millions upon millions of dollars, and as long as they were getting the money, it's okay. But now it's impacting them in some form or fashion. Now that they're crying foul, and I'm just, it's just how hypocritical. These guys, it's just ridiculous. What's your take on it?
I respect Saban because of 7 national titles or whatever it is, but he's a punk. You lose the recruiting war to a team, so now you're going to accuse them of doing stuff. Texas A&M is playing by the rules. They're playing by the rules, and then he's going to bring Deion Sanders into it too about the kids. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Like, do you remember? It was like 5 or 6 years ago. He wanted to outlaw no-huddle offenses because he said, well, kids are going to get hurt because they don't have a chance to get their best. Because he didn't have that kind of a team. And he didn't want to coach that way. So he wants the deck stacked in his favor. And once the playing field is level, he wants to how can you call out a school, a former assistant of yours, and say they bought all these players? Well, guess what? If they did buy them with the NILs, then it is legal. And if it's legal, what is your problem? Right. And where were you running your mouth, when you were getting the number 1 recruiting class every year? That's the only reason I hate Alabama. I hate Alabama, well, for 2 reasons. It's in the state of Alabama. And number 2, they can get any player they want to get. They have no excuse to lose to anybody, anytime, or any place. Yeah. And now a guy out recruits you, and you're going to cry and moan and say, oh, this is bad, this is bad. Take your $15 million a year salary and go somewhere and be quiet. Yeah. Well, it's ridiculous, and Saban at 22, he's set to make $9.5 million. That alone tops. That's tops as far as just salary now. Okay, but that's without the incentives. And for every year he stays at Alabama, he'll receive an annual raise of close to $500,000, $400,000 a year. Okay. And so he's every couple of years, he's going up $1 million. And like I said, that doesn't include incentives, that doesn't include deals and what have you. And Dave, I mean, the issue I have, again, everything that you said, and then the fact that you have benefited off of this system and these kids haven't. And now you're crying foul. And again, for 2 reasons. Obviously, as you said, number 1 is because you don't get the top recruiting class. And then, like you said, to bring Deion Sanders in it. And I mean, the fact that you have, now you have players, and I think HBCUs are rightfully so. They're going after some of these top athletes and saying, hey, there's an opportunity here. And it's interesting. You look at the NFL, and I believe I'm trying to remember the exact number now, but I want to say it's 10-15%. I did the numbers about a year ago. We did a show on it, and of the NFL Hall of Famers are from HBCUs. And so now that has gone down. I think it was the 2020 draft. I think there was 1 player in the entire NFL draft from an HBCU, and granted for obvious reasons. But the point being is that if you start recruiting these black colleges, going to these black athletes, say, hey, keep it at home, so to speak. It's going to be interesting to see how that transpires. I agree with everything you said, but this one is so ridiculous. Let's say Tom Brady retired and didn't come out of retirement, and then he goes back and becomes a coach in Michigan. You don't think every quarterback who is anybody say, well, I want to play for him.
Yeah.
So the player in question, I can't remember his name offhand, is the number 1 rated cornerback in the nation, and he's going to go play for a coach who was probably the best cornerback in his football. So it is so disrespectful of Saban even to say some of the things that he's saying, and it's the trouble that I think is going to come back and get him is he don't run the cleanest operation that is in town.
Exactly.
And he's running his mouth about somebody else who, by the way, what I heard today was of the 13 top recruits that Texas A&M got, one of them has an NIL.
Yep. One. Yep. I saw that.
He bought all these players. I mean, it's just a baby, a crybaby.
Yeah.
Right. He needs to go Affleck himself back down there. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Well, Jimbo Fisher made a good point. He said, number one, I was there. Okay. I was an assistant, as you mentioned. And this guy got some skeletons in his closet, like you just said. And so, to cry foul and what have you. And let me just clarify real quickly for our listeners. If you just tuned in, you're listening to Monday Night Sports. I'm Duke. That's David DuPree. And we're talking about the NIL, the name, image, and likeness. And basically, in the simplest terms, NIL is a term that describes, the means through which college athletes now are allowed to receive financial compensation. So the kids can use their name, their image, their likeness, and through marketing and promotional endeavors. So what's happening with Texas A&M, supposedly, and in Texas now, whether the Texas schools have more money than anybody else, and you look at oil prices and what have you, the boosters, but regardless, all these schools have a lot of money. But what's happening is the schools are basically setting up kind of these, what they're saying are booster collectives, if you will, and what they're doing is having funds available to be able to pay the athletes coming in, for their name, their image, or likeness. So whether it's a car dealership, for example, they're doing an autograph signing, or the image is used for whatever. And David, as you said, that's not illegal. That's not illegal. Now, is the system broken? Absolutely. Do they need to? I mean, they need to just blow it up and start over. But with that said, will that ever happen? I doubt it. But the reality is that's what is set up. So I was looking at it and pulled this out of an article. It says, despite the clarity coming 10 months into the NIL era, the guidelines are meant to be retroactive. So they're putting in new guidelines, and according to the guidelines, the NCAA enforcement staff is given the freedom to investigate, any school they think that is egregiously violating, the laws, the bylaws, whether it's now or, from the start back 10 months ago. The guidance primary purpose is eliminating a booster's involvement in recruiting. David, I just don't think that's ever going to happen. Unfortunately, these boosters are involved, and they always will find, they being the boosters, the schools will always find a way for them to get around it. And I just think that until the NCAA takes a step back, takes a look in the mirror, and really, really totally revamps how it operates, this is going to be an issue. It's going to be a problem.
It's funny because they could have avoided this a long, long time ago by just giving all the players a minimum salary. Just give them a minimum. Or 11 play at a time for a team. So what if a booster wants to give a kid $100,000? How many kids can you give $100,000 to? You know what I mean? I mean, After a while, you say, okay, well, I've got a quarterback. I'm not going to give another quarterback $100,000. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. So I just don't understand why they have to feel. Well, I do understand why, because you want control. And if the players make money, you don't have control of them because they can say, forget you.
Right.
Take the difference between basketball and football. Like basketball, the infamous one and done. Okay, you go 1 year, then you can go. Football, you got to be there 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, why? Who are you to tell somebody? What organization? Two things, my pet peeves we got to get rid of. The IOC, okay, and the NCAA. We don't need either one. We don't need either one. All they are rich people making other old people rich at the expense of people who are trying to really get along in life. And it just makes no sense because you could be fair. Yeah. You could be fair. And they don't want to. I don't blame him in that respect, because if I have control, why am I going to give up control?
Yeah, but I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, let's take a look at, what these young people are bringing in. And the reality is that the football and the basketball programs are carrying the athletic programs at most schools. I mean, that's just the way it is. But yeah, I mean, and the fact that you will penalize a kid for getting a few dollars to whatever the case may be, and all these strict rules. But yeah, David, I agree with you. You hit the nail on the head. They don't want to give up power, and I don't think they ever will. But you've opened up Pandora's box here some, and so where do you go from here? Because if you try to put too much, what's lack of a better word, restrictions on what you're allowing, then you're gonna be facing some lawsuits. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out with the NC2A, with the name, image, likeness of players getting paid, and where it goes from here. But keep an eye on, this feud between Saban and Jimbo Fisher, like you said, bringing in Deion Sanders, and Saban tried to walk back some very little of what he said. But it just, at the end of the day, it's a stop whining. Go out and get your team ready and do what you need to do, man.
Would you, if you had a child who was a football player, a good football player, would you want to go play for a coach who's whining? I would.
No.
There's a lot of things a coach can do, but whining is not an attractive look on any coach.
No.
And you're whining for one reason, because somebody out recruited you.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
Take a hike.
Yeah. You said it. We got about a minute left here. Hope you've enjoyed the show. Next week, we'll continue to focus on the NBA playoffs. If the big dog is available, we'll get him again, but he'll be joining us more regularly. We appreciate your time. And stay tuned for what Lid Line is next right here on Rainier Avenue Radio. Don't go anywhere. You see it. They're going to be talking more about the NIL. That's Granville, Pepe, and Little O. And until next week, I hope you enjoy the show. I'm Duke. That was David DuPree. This is Rainier Avenue Radio. Thanks to our producers, Caleb, Daniel. Appreciate what you guys do. Until next week, peace and God bless.